Call this budget workshop to order. Just as I'm calling order, she walks in and disrupts the whole thing. Now, calling attention to you, Katie. No, I'm kidding. Call this budget workshop to order at 11:30. It is Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. This should be our final budget workshop, and we're discussing changes that need to happen. And I don't know, can you explain the CASA thing as it's come up?
Just in the losing the public defense fund going to the state. Well, the CASA, which is court appointed special advocates for minors in the courts, if the judge appoints an attorney to represent those, that was not going to the state because they felt there would be a conflict of interest. So it's something we have to put in our budget. Peggy and I got together. She found an average of what we should put in. So we found a line to put 36,000 in to cover the CASA part, and didn't change our levy.
It didn't change our levy because I had reduced solid waste levy. So we raised it up in justice and then lowered it in solid waste.
And solid waste is still
Flushed.
flush. Okay. And you put the money into what account? Into the
Public
the fund?
defense.
Into public defense. Okay.
So just to clarify, public defense, is that also in the justice fund, assumingly? Or
Yes.
No? Okay, so the CASA is now in
No,
justice fund.
it's always been there since
Right.
it was developed.
And that was a big, the big adjustment. Is public defense, it looked like the sheriff's department was taking a $600,000 decrease, but that wasn't the fact, or not the sheriff's department, the justice fund. That $600 decrease was, or $600,000 decrease was taking away our public defense
Budget.
and moving it to the state.
Right.
But we also did the levy rates to cover what we have from
But we
the,
left the levy.
what we left in there. So the levy rates are there. We had increased your levy rate, the
Right.
justice fund. So your public defense is still in that cash. So we'll make sure we'll keep that separated.
Other holes to fill. I see Jessica. Did we get the sign line to the 5,000?
Was that adjusted?
Yes.
That was adjusted. Thank you. Just want to make sure we took care of that since we're having so many issues with signs. All right.
And Mr. Chair, just on the last point, the CASA piece, the statute that the legislature enacted did carve out a opportunity for counties to submit for reimbursement. So just be mindful of that as those bills are coming in. There's a mechanism that the counties can reach out to a state pool. We don't know what it will look like yet, but the statute contemplates that there's a state pool where they allocated funding into a pool that the counties can submit for reimbursement if they pay those expenses for CASA. So be sure you
First
You
come,
read the
first serve
statute.
though.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
we'll keep our AP. Yeah. They'll come to the clerk's office.
Yeah. They told us already ahead of time that it's going to go fast between the 44 counties.
Whoever gets there the quickest. Okay. Commissioners, do you have anything else that you want to ask about or follow up on?
The only other one when I asked about court security being in sheriffs, and asked, I thought originated from the judges wanting that security, but I didn't know if we got anywhere with, are we splitting that salary with?
They left it in across the street.
Okay. Is it something that we could move to district court? Or
I don't have
Anywhere on
anything right at this point in my levies.
okay.
You don't have any.
Room in my levy.
That's what I thought you said. I guess I better verify that. In my hearing. Okay.
I mean, we would have to.
Take more?
Would we not at least, if I could throw out a question for that, because that was one of the things I was going to bring up. But for let's say for whatever that cost is, half that cost for 35,000, why not increase the levy for 35,000 and then decrease the law enforcement levy by 35,000 at least?
I'm sorry, I missed, she was handing me
Sorry.
paper.
Um,
paper, sorry.
So to at least make it to where this is a standard in the future, would we be willing to decrease the justice fund levy by 35,000 or whatever the half is, and then increase a different levy to then bring that cost into
Well,
the expenses?
Apparently, I would have to go to the judges and see how much time is required and meet with how much, the court systems need that security.
Right, but to answer the commissioner's question, to allow for that room, I believe that would allow for the room.
Mechanically speaking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, if we reduce the one levy and raise the other, so that there's no change to the overall. But you're saying before we do that, you would need to talk to the judges.
Well, I think if it's a requirement from our judges, I think they should have some input of how much security they need and what's it going to cost us on this side, if they want to. Because half the time I don't even know when he's coming in and coming out of, who's scheduling Sean, over on this side. I don't know because no one's ever contacted me on it regarding my court systems since I've been here.
Yes, predominantly the judges get first right of refusal is how it's been working. So he automatically responds to the judges for whatever their needs are, which is a large amount of time. And then secondarily, if he has extra time, then he comes and checks in and helps with the sheriff's office and other capacities, particularly in the jail.
So, I think that would be up to how much time we need him over here and what the cost really actually is. And I think we can take our time, and we've got a year to do that. He's covered across the street. So, we had given you guys that extra levy amount for all of the requests you made, so I'm not understanding why.
So maybe in the future, I guess, that
Yes.
as we look to better the funding at the justice side, if that's a possibility according to the judges and it can be affordable, can we shift that in the future? Okay.
Okay. Do we have other department heads or elected here with final questions or thoughts?
Unfortunately, I was sent with quite a few.
Well, to be consistent, what have you got?
To start off with, just our primary line items, which I came and talked to Tammy about yesterday. I didn't hear Timmy back yesterday. If you look in our line items, they've been renamed without our knowledge.
Well, these were some of the requests that the commissioners asked him to rename them.
Okay, so with that would actually provide a massive gap in our ability to outfit our deputies, because the equipment line is what we're using for. It's a giant amount of things we have to buy for equipment on the regular. Everything but
Equipment line item.
Well, we put the desk,
so
computers off of that one line item.
equipment was renamed to desk chairs in the standard office, which my concern with that being is the stuff we actually purchase out of the equipment line really has nothing to do with desk chairs in the stand office. So if we were then restricted and not able to purchase things we need to out of equipment because of that, it would create an accounting or audit.
We can that's just minute stuff.
Yeah, that was for the general.
That was for the
over
for
here.
everyone, you said.
Okay.
Because see, those count numbers are the same when you hit the budget module, when
So
you
we need
change.
to add probably.
So,
another account.
but that's something that's very easy to fix. We'll get together and tell me what you're looking for in that line item, and we can do a new header off of and open up a new account. That's not
Yeah, so I was just making a request that it just returns to what it already was before. I highlighted I can produce that.
It's on the sheriff, it's on the jail, it's on,
It's also on
Yeah, when you
jail.
change
So they
that
did it
budget
kinda
module, it changes it throughout
Yeah,
the
'cause that's
system.
what these guys were doing, just equipment
So countywide funds.
Yes.
It changed it across, so
Across the board.
she can modify if you want to track it better in different areas. We can add.
As long as we don't get pushback for it being different than what it's described as. The 911 budget's the big one that we have to talk about today. Here is what the county proposed. And I believe, and I don't think this should be a point of contention. I think it was just because it's actually the same amount of money. It's just that it was apparently on the sheets that I've been provided, it wasn't changed. So if you look at, I only have one of the big ones, but if you look at this, these numbers stayed the same, or the same as what the county proposed, where the numbers we proposed are just way different, but the cost is the same thing if you'd like to look at this. So like this is what we have that we were shown is still in there, however, this is what we proposed. So the ending dollar value should be about right,
Well,
but
yeah,
it's in completely different orders and line items and stuff.
we can change at the bottom total is what you're after, Seth. As long as your bottom total matches with mine, because it's cash.
Correct, but it doesn't, from my understanding of through the year with you, that the Board of Commissioners would still have to meet and make sure it goes back in the correct line items, correct? Because we can't just jump cash to wherever we want.
Well, I guess your
See what I'm saying?
no, not really, because
Okay.
your expense accounts, you're asking on your expense count, your telephone here, you wanted 38 here, and you wanted to raise this 3,000. Is that what you're?
Right. So on the right, that is what we proposed where we need the funds. And the left is where you kept the funds where the county proposed, which the dollar value still ends almost the
Yeah,
same.
that's not a big change because the bottom total's the same.
Okay,
About
as
3,000.
long as we have it logged that we can do that without future commissioner meetings. And that,
You
that's
can go ahead and
that-
just change them in the
that's-
system
yeah,
back to what they want.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not a big
okay.
deal.
Okay.
Cool. Sounds good. 'Cause that was the primary one. And then lastly, just one thing to hear back from levy wise, the estimated revenue other than taxes are obviously these numbers in here. Current expenses gone up by 600 some thousand. Our levy rates, when you bring down the levies, because that's the least stable funds for anything, is the levies. So in these other categories, levies have been brought down, and the justice fund levies skyrocketed. So in the future, just a slight concern of ours is that it's going to make it appear that we're just over levied, but that's just
Well,
a concern.
that's because that's where the levy rate is landed, so that we went down in order to boost you guys up
Right. So
within that 3%. So you have to do it that way, otherwise you can't get your levy rates or your taxes.
So, for example, if that liquor expense went into our revenues other than taxes, that went in, you'd be able to increase a levy in other space and decrease our levy is what you would be able to do. But I'll leave it there.
If we had other incomes.
They had other income.
Okay. All right, other questions or comments from department heads or elected? Anything else from the commissioners on this process? Or from the clerk? Nobody there? All right, then we'll open, we've got 15 minutes, so short comments, but public comments, if we have anything.
Hopefully next year, the departments are looking for different revenue instead of what happened this year. That nothing came about until April, May. And we can find different revenue besides taxes. That's it. I go, kind of rebuttal to that. One of the problems we have is the county is only able to tax on real property. And so that's where we're gonna have to reach out to our senators and legislatures to try to get another form of revenue. That's why they took away our snowmobile permits. Because the county, the county can only take revenue on taxes or on real property. So this is where, where we're at. Being our county is, I talked about it the other day that we're unique. 82% is federal lands. Then we have, a lot of our land is forest lands that are owned by logging companies. We don't have the room like these other counties do to put a 1,000 home subdivision in, or a 100 home subdivision. I mean, we don't have that space. I mean, we don't, we're just a valley, and that's our problem. Our tax base is never going to be like these other counties that have the flat land, and so we've got to reach out and somehow, it's going to have to go through the state. I mean, or our property taxes are just going to be ridiculous. Another Telluride, Colorado is an example. It's a ski resort. I mean, it's just there's nowhere to build, so just property taxes go up and up and up. So we're going to have to reach out to those other, the state to see what we can do with it.
And it's unfortunate that our senior citizens and our families single households just trying to live in this economy. I was looking at reports from the treasurer's office. There's a lot of delinquent taxes, and a lot of them are multi-land owners or property owners that us small people are carrying through the taxes that aren't paid they wait till they're 3 years and then try to pay them. It's unfortunate for those that struggle.
And the other thing is we have right now the state has what they call a homeowners tax relief program. And everybody got that last year. And it was $190 million. There's a homeowners tax relief program, and then there's a all other property tax relief program. Well, the all other property tax relief program is going to be finished this year. So this year we're going to split, instead of 190 million, they're giving us 76 million. So that the amount that the property tax owners get as from the state to take off their, like they did last year, it's going to be less than it. So basically, it's going to raise everything this year. Now our taxes, we were able to raise taxes last year 3%, plus we took foregone because we thought our budget was, in trouble. The figures that we got showed that we were underwater, and now we find out we weren't that bad off. So, that's another thing we've got to look at is it's going to be hard for everybody.
Okay. Man, a
Well,
public
it's
comment.
be hard for everybody, and all the departments need to lower their expectations for money. If we have to
Unfortunately,
think ahead, they should have to think ahead.
We have to learn to operate with the inflation as well, because it not only does it hit all of us personally, it's hitting the county to operate. We have to adjust with inflation to continue.
Anything further?
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, so we are challenged. The state gave us a form of government that we have to fund and support. We've got some state mandated services that we have to provide. Inflation comes along and whacks our ability to do that. And yet the state ties our hands on our alternatives or ways of raising funds other than the property tax. So we're all feeling the same dilemma. There are various opinions on where you should be on this. And I think that's because it is a balancing act. We're trying to balance between how much service can we provide, what are we legally required to provide, and how much can we fund. And that is what we've been working on for the last few months. And it's not a fun position. The state needs to re-examine how we fund counties.
I have a question. If you can bear with me, because I'm trying to understand the systems and how they function. Are there like internal audits throughout the year within the different programs that look at, are we working to our full capacity with what we have at hand, or How does that work?
We do have an auditor.
But we're auditing the cash, the amount is being spent, and we're watching the budgets. We're not going in and auditing the function of an office.
Yeah, that's more of what I'm questioning. How do the different offices look at how they're functioning and whether they're meeting the standards to stay within their budget instead of waiting until the end of the year and everybody's going, where's the money coming from?
That's kind of what the clerk auditor watches as things come through.
Yeah, but the clerk is over everything. I'm talking about like within the sheriff's department, within the works department or roads department. How do they know that they're within their budget?
I can't answer the sheriff's department without help.
Everything comes through the clerk's
Clerk's
office, and every month there is a report given to each department showing their revenue and expenses, and that they are to sign acknowledging where they're at and within their department.
Then I'm
It
lost
comes
to
through-
understand why it's at the end of the year that everybody's going, we don't have the money. If it's done on a monthly basis. But again, I'm totally naive and ignorant about how, I just know from my work experience what I had to do to make sure that I was within my budget.
So I could actually even have invite you guys over and show exactly how we do at the sheriff's office, to show how we are accountable for each and every dollar of taxpayer money and how that plays into our line items that they've approved, and to stay under the budget by the end of the year.
Then why is there a deficit at the end of the year? I'm ignorant to the system. I don't get how you can be at a loss, because I always knew when I was at a loss.
I think what you're saying, there's not a deficit. There's not a deficit at the end of the year. People have stayed within budget. The cost of inflation and everything else is creating, now there'll be a deficit to go into next year because we have the same amount of money we had last year, but the cost of everything has gone up. The deficit is moving forward.
Okay.
Well, one of the biggest problems we actually had was, we've had an outside audit. When we've had our regular audit. When we were figuring out this justice fund, and I still don't know how the justice fund was figured out, and when we split the justice fund, it created problems. And so now we have to, with the sheriff's department was $500,000 under funded, and that's kind of carried forward, and it came from the justice fund. The audit that we just had, showed that we were underfunded. So what we're trying to do is try to figure out, we've transferred funds over this year. We took the levy from the public defense and put it over there. So we're trying to shift that around to figure out how we can. It's been a funding issue since we took office.
So, but that's about past, not future.
Mm-hmm.
It-
It's
So,
still future.
It's still,
Yeah,
it's,
still.
we're within the 3% box. And within that 3% box, we have all these funds they're all separated. And on that 3% box that we're in, we can raise a levy here and reduce another levy depending on where the carryover, because there's several things I'm looking at in the course of a budget. I'm looking at to see where the cash is in each fund. I'm looking to, we have to provide a carryover, which means from October 1 through January, I don't get my next tax money till January. So they're requiring a 25%, that's outside auditors say you need a 25% cash carryover to get you through to the next income. So that's what in the course of this budget, when I start, that's what I'm looking for, to see where we're at each fund and where they're at in cash wise. You have, like within current expense, you have several departments within current expense, and all their income is considered all inclusive. So if my income is higher than what Ben's is, and Ben's expenses are higher than mine, he's using my income because we're all inclusive. So the levy rate, of course, Ben, when we're out there, Ben is required by statutes to provide so much. His income will never meet what he needs to provide by state statute. So then we go out and levy to the taxpayers. But again, it's all these other departments helping one another to get and keep that tax levy rate down to the taxpayers. So I'm trying to constantly stay within, I'm working within my 3% this last year when I came back and trying to match what was paid to by the taxpayers last year. So then I went ahead and of course, the only enterprise system we have within the county is solid waste. So if solid waste does well, then that means his levy, I bring his levy down and I can raise to help up the other departments within that 3% levy rate.
And that's happening throughout the year.
Well, it's set now, but so it's set. But again, my public defense and the sheriff's office are all in together. Well, you raised the cash with the public defense last year. Well, I had money sitting there in the same, and again, it's all inclusive. So the commissioners were able to, but were helping over there when they're not getting their income, let's say, that came into that. So again, you're juggling, but still we made it through.
Hey, can I boil it down? There's a lot simpler way of saying that. As a county as a whole, we were told 1.7 million or something crazy, and that was just it was a little off, right? So and then it kept going down and down and down. I also would have the same question here, just without the expansiveness. The county as a whole, justice fund, everything. How much were we under? Because we did have raises in certain departments and not other, and that's fine. But as a whole, how much was the county short? Because I don't think that's ever been answered. And I think that's your question. As a whole,
I just don't
Not on a whole, it
understand
was justice fund last year and it was 350 some thousand.
Yeah, the justice fund was short at the end of the year, and then also short when we're going. But that's what I'm saying, the justice fund was on its own. So this is what we did, is they split the current expense into two funds.
Who's they?
The county, prior to us coming on, and then it's kind of a state requirement that we do that?
It's
No,
not a state requirement, it's a state option. So the
State
opened
option,
up
so
an
they
option.
took that option, and we just followed through with it, that's.
because you can only max out on the current expense up to 0.002. And my suspicion looking back, putting all the expenses that were requested broke the levy, so that's why they had to split it.
So you're
And so
talking,
this-
when you say the request they made for the following year.
Yeah, well, when they were, yeah, because you have by Idaho code 0.0002. So that current expense, when the sheriff's office was sitting in current expense, you couldn't go out and get enough money to operate these different offices. So that's why the split came. Yes.
And I hate to wrap this, but if you have more questions, feel free afterwards to
And you
wrap
come
it.
upstairs in my office and I should show you maybe visuals better.
All right. We need to wrap this up so we can go on to the next meeting in 15 minutes. So anything further from the commission? Okay. All right, with that, we're going to adjourn.